Psalm 27 is the key to success. When we read the words of King David, we realize that there is not only a religious song or a prayer of trust, but a true manual of inner strength. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? These words echo like a cry of courage in the midst of the battles of the soul. The psalmist reminds us of something essential. It is not the outer world that defines the size of our courage, but the inner certainty we carry. Centuries later, Napoleon Hill would affirm in his studies on success that every human being carries within him the seed of victory, but that few know how to cultivate it with faith, discipline, and persistence. When we unite these two paths, the spiritual and the philosophical, we realize that the message is one: winning in life begins by winning within oneself. Modern society has taught us to look for ready-made formulas, quick shortcuts, and external solutions to challenges. But both David and Hill show us that true transformation does not happen outside, but within. Psalm 27 is a reminder that light is always available to the one who trusts, even when the night seems darker. Hill, in turn, teaches that this confidence translates into unwavering faith in oneself and one's chosen purpose. When we unite the two, we understand that faith and success are not enemies, but allies. The man who believes, whether in divine power or in the power of his own spirit, finds the strength to face any obstacle. Look at your life. How many times have you felt paralyzed in the face of fear? How many times has a closed door or a momentary failure made you believe that there was no way out? Psalm 27 is not a distant poem, but a direct response to these moments. He says, "Even if an army were to surround me, my heart would not fear. Even if war were to rise against me, I would trust in it." And Napoleon Hill reinforces, "It is precisely in the moments of greatest adversity that character is shaped." Failure, he said, is just a disguised opportunity, an invitation to adjust course, strengthen the mind, and keep going. Thus, David and Hill speak the same language at different times. There is no success without courage, and there is no courage without faith. The light of Psalm 27 is the same light that Hill calls clear vision. It is that inner flame that guides the steps even when nothing around seems to make sense. Many people give up because they only look at the external circumstances. If the scenario seems difficult, they believe that it is not worth continuing. But the psalmist teaches us to look beyond the circumstances, to see victory before it happens. Hill said that all conquests begin as a burning desire, a clear idea in the mind that refuses to die. And here's the key: both David and Hill show us that victory is mental first, then real. You need to overcome the fear, doubt, and insecurity within yourself before you can conquer anything out there. This principle changes everything. When you wake up in the morning with your mind steeped in worries, your energy is depleted before the day even begins. But when you wake up with confidence, even if there are still problems, you already start the day at an advantage. That is why Psalm 27 becomes so powerful. It is a statement of confidence. To say, "The Lord is my light and my salvation," is to reprogram the mind. It is to choose to believe that victory is possible even without evidence. Napoleon Hill said that faith is the basis of all riches, because it is what keeps the human being moving when all the reasons to give up have already appeared. Faith does not need immediate proof. It is proof that something greater is to come. Now, think about how many times you've given up early. How many dreams have you put aside because you didn't see quick results? Haste is the enemy of success, and both David and Hill knew it. The psalmist said, "Wait on the Lord, take courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Therefore wait for the Lord." Hill stressed that persistence is the trait that separates winners from failures. Many have good ideas. Many start with enthusiasm, but only those who persist reap the rewards. It is in the silence of waiting, in daily work, in invisible discipline that victory is built. It is not a matter of waiting with folded arms, but of trusting while acting, of keeping the faith while continuing to plant. This is the great synthesis. Success is not luck. It is the result of faith plus discipline plus continuous action. Psalm 27 gives us faith, Napoleon Hill gives us discipline, and both give us the courage to keep going. That's why this encounter is so powerful. You can even read the psalm only as a religious text, but to delve into it is to realize that it is a true manual of self-confidence, mental clarity, and resilience. Likewise, you can read Hill only as a business manual, but at its core, its message is spiritual. Believe in something greater, believe in yourself, believe that the impossible can become real. When you put these two sources together, you discover that success is an integral construction. Mind, spirit, and action walking together. The question that remains is, have you lived by these principles? Or have you allowed yourself to be overcome by the noise of fear and doubt? Often, what separates you from the next level is not a lack of opportunities, but a lack of faith in keeping trying. How many talents were lost due to withdrawal? How many dreams have died because someone believed it was too late? Psalm 27 and Napoleon Hill cry out in unison. It is never too late to win, as long as you choose faith over fear. As long as you choose persistence over giving up. As long as you choose to believe that there is a light, even when everything seems dark. This awareness begins to transform your life. You realize that you no longer have to live as a victim of circumstances. You have the power of choice. You can decide which narrative to tell yourself. He can mentally repeat words of defeat, or he can raise his voice like David and declare confidence. He may accept failure as the end, or he may, like Hill, see it as just another lesson on the way. What defines the future is not what happens, but how you react to what happens. That is the key that opens all doors. This is the key to success. The power of Psalm 27 and the teachings of Napoleon Hill lies in reminding us that the most important battle does not take place in the external world, but within the mind. You can have all the resources in the world, you can have money, contacts, and opportunities, but if you don't have a mind strengthened by faith, everything is lost. At the same time, you may be surrounded by limitations, with no apparent resources, no support, no ideal conditions, but if you have a convinced, disciplined, and confident mind, sooner or later you will find a way. That is why David, faced with enemies much stronger than himself, did not despair. His victory did not come from the appearance of circumstances, but from the strength of his confidence. And that is why Hill stated so clearly that what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Both talk about the same secret. Reality bends before a mind trained by faith. Many confuse faith with passivity, as if it were just waiting for something to happen. But Psalm 27 shows the opposite. David was not standing still, he faced battles, he made decisions, he acted. The difference is that he acted with confidence. He didn't let fear determine his steps. Hill also did not teach passivity. On the contrary, his method was one of organized action, of ardent desire that was transformed into clear goals, of faith that became practical persistence. Faith without action is only illusion, and action without faith is only empty effort. But when we unite faith and action, we create an unstoppable force. This is the secret that unites the ancient psalm and the modern philosophy of success. Imagine a person who decides to open a business. If it starts out afraid, full of doubts, it starts at a disadvantage. The difficulties that appear will become giant, because your mind is already programmed to give up. But if you start with faith, knowing that you will face obstacles, but believing that you will reach the goal, each difficulty becomes just a step on the way. Psalm 27 is that mental programming. It trains you to look to the future with confidence. And Hill reinforces, success does not come from avoiding problems, but from learning to face them with courage. There is no victory without struggle, there is no conquest without persistence. What separates the winners from the defeated is not what happens, but how each responds to what happens. How many times have you heard stories of people who lost everything and started over from scratch? What sustained these people was not only technical knowledge, but faith. Faith in itself, faith in something greater, faith that there was a purpose in that difficulty. Hill studied hundreds of successful people and concluded that they all had this trait in common: they didn't give up. Not because they never failed, but because failure was not enough to kill them inside. And Psalm 27 already said the same thing. Even if my father and mother forsook me, the Lord would welcome me. This phrase is a manifesto of resilience. Even if all external foundations are broken, there is an inner strength that sustains those who trust. The world trains us to seek external guarantees. We want financial security before taking risks, we want people's approval before deciding, we want guarantees that everything will work out before it starts. But both David and Hill remind us that the path is the opposite. You take the first step without guarantees and build certainty on the path. This is how life transforms. If you wait until you have everything under control to act, you will never do anything. If you wait for the conditions to be perfect, you will never move from your place. Psalm 27 says, "The Lord is the strength of my life, whose fear shall I be?" This question is a challenge. If there is a fortress within you, why wait? Why postpone? Why live in fear? Hill reinforces, those who wait for the perfect conditions never accomplish anything. Success requires faith in the midst of uncertainty. It requires action even without guarantees. And when you act in faith, the conditions begin to align. Success, therefore, is not just about achieving external goals, but developing an inner posture. It is this posture that allows you to start over when all seems lost, that keeps calm in the midst of chaos, that sustains your spirits when everyone around you gets discouraged. Psalm 27 is a training of this posture. He teaches us to declare confidence even when fear tries to dominate. It trains us to wait patiently even when anxiety screams for haste. He shows us that the secret is not to eliminate difficulties, but to strengthen the heart to overcome them. And Hill shows the same in practical language. Applied faith turns fear into courage, turns failure into learning, turns desire into persistent action. They are not two different teachings, but two faces of the same truth. Now, think of your life as a construct. You can try to erect walls without foundations, and everything will fall at the slightest wind. The foundation is faith. It is believing that what you are building has value, that it is worth persisting, that even if it takes time, it will bear fruit. Psalm 27 is that spiritual foundation. It sets your heart. Napoleon Hill is the engineer who teaches how to build walls. Discipline, goals, planning, persistence. One without the other does not sustain. Only faith without action is lost in illusions. Only action without faith wears out in emptiness. But when you bring the two together, your life becomes a solid, unshakable construct capable of weathering storms. The big key, then, is to internalize this truth. Life is not arranged from the outside in, but from the inside out. What you think, what you believe, what you silently declare every day shapes the future. When David said that he would not be afraid even in the face of armies, it was not because he was sure of the outward result, but because he was sure of his inner strength. Hill said that everything begins with a burning desire, because this desire is the energy that moves continuous action. Faith and ardent desire are two expressions of the same flame. One feeds the other. When you believe, you want it harder. When he wants it hard, he believes even more. And this cycle creates enough energy to get through any difficulty. Maybe today you are facing a time when everything seems to fall apart. Maybe he is without strength, without courage, without clarity. Psalm 27 says, "The Lord is my light." This is the reminder that you don't have to walk in the dark. There is always a direction, there is always a purpose, there is always a way out. Napoleon Hill would say that every failure carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit. In other words, behind every fall there is a lesson that can turn into victory. The question is, are you willing to keep believing and persisting until that seed blooms? This is the question that defines those who achieve success and those who give up along the way. The secret of Psalm 27 and the teachings of Napoleon Hill lies not only in beautiful phrases to inspire, but in a real practice that changes the lives of those who commit themselves. It's easy to read the psalm and feel hope for a moment. It's easy to read Hill and get excited about his ideas, but transformation happens when you decide to live it every day. There is no success without consistency. There is no true faith without practice. It is necessary to repeat in silence, in mind and heart, that you are not afraid, that you believe, that you will persist. It is necessary to act even when the desire is to stop. It is necessary to declare confidence when doubt invades. That's what shapes character. This is what separates those who only dream from those who achieve. The great truth is that no one reaches success without facing inner battles. The fear of failure, insecurity, comparison with others, anxiety about the future, all of these try to bring us down before we even start. Psalm 27 is like a spiritual sword against these invisible enemies. When David said he would not fear, he was not only talking about physical enemies, but also about the battles of the mind. How many times have you been defeated by fear before you even act? How many opportunities have you missed because you believed you weren't capable? Hill taught that the human mind is like a garden. If you don't plant good seeds, the weeds of doubt and fear grow on their own. That is why it is so important to watch your thoughts, choose what to believe, feed your mind with faith and trust. Success is not a destination, but a state of mind that is reflected in results. Many people believe that success only begins when they earn money, fame, or recognition. But both Hill and the psalmist teach us that success begins when you learn to overcome yourself. That's when you refuse to give up, even without support. It's when you maintain discipline, even without immediate results. That's when you decide to keep believing, even without seeing clear signs. This inner success is what sustains all external achievements. Without it, any victory quickly falls apart. With it, even defeats become part of a larger path. Think of how many people have already achieved great things, but lost everything because they had no inner balance. Money without serenity turns into torment. Fame without purpose turns into emptiness. Power without faith turns into tyranny. True success, the one that remains, is born from within. Psalm 27 is an invitation to build on that solid success, because it teaches us that inner confidence is more important than outer circumstances. Napoleon Hill reinforces that faith is the basis of all lasting wealth. And the union of these two teachings shows that the secret is not only to achieve, but to sustain. It is not just conquering, but standing firm. This is where many give up. They want immediate results, they want quick changes, they want shortcuts. But both spirituality and the philosophy of success are paths of patience and constancy. It's planting and waiting to grow. It is watering every day, even when the land seems dry. It is to believe that even without seeing, the roots are strengthening. It is to act with discipline while the harvest does not arrive. David waited years to become king. Hill spent decades studying the greats of success before writing his masterpiece. Both knew that the process is part of the victory. Those who give up in the middle of the process never taste the fruit. Those who insist even without guarantees, one day taste the reward. And here's the beauty. No matter where you are today, you can choose to live out those principles now. Maybe you're at rock bottom, maybe you're just starting out, maybe you've already achieved something but feel that peace is lacking. Psalm 27 and Napoleon Hill do not speak to an elite, but to anyone willing to believe and act. There are no prerequisites other than the decision to start. There are no barriers that cannot be overcome with faith and persistence. Success is not the privilege of a few, it is the possibility of everyone who decides to believe and not give up. This is the message that transforms. You already have everything you need within you, you just need to activate by faith and confirm by discipline. So when you are tempted to stop, remember these words: wait on the Lord, take courage, and He will strengthen your heart. This means that your strength comes not only from you, but from something greater that sustains you. It means that you don't have to carry everything yourself, that there is an inexhaustible source of courage available. Hill called this applied faith. It was the same confidence that when you decide clearly and act decisively, unseen forces seem to move in your favor. Some call it coincidence, others fate, but all those who persist experience. When you don't give up, life opens paths. Maybe you've experienced it. A moment when all seemed lost, but suddenly an unexpected opportunity appeared. A moment when you were about to give up, but you found a word, a person, or a circumstance that gave you new courage. This is no coincidence. It is the result of an inner posture that refuses to give up. It is the materialization of faith in action. It is proof that Psalm 27 was right. There is an invisible fortress supporting you. It is confirmation that Hill was right. The believing mind finds paths that the doubting mind will never see. We then come to the heart of the message. Success is not just about conquering, but about becoming. It's not about having, but about being. True success is becoming someone who doesn't give up, someone who believes, someone who persists. It is to become someone who, even in the face of darkness, still sees light. Someone who, even in the face of failure, still believes in the future. This type of person is invincible because they do not depend on circumstances to continue. And that's exactly what David and Hill teach us. Psalm 27 is the prayer that strengthens, Napoleon Hill is the manual that directs, and the two together form a key capable of opening any door. So, if you're looking to transform your life, get started today. Don't expect perfect conditions, don't expect approval from others, don't wait for fear to go away. Start in the midst of fear, in the midst of doubt, in the midst of uncertainty. Declare with David, "The Lord is my light." Affirm as Hill did, what the mind can believe, it can achieve. And then act. Take small steps, but don't stop. Be patient, but don't settle. Be persistent, but don't harden yourself. Trust that every quiet effort, every act of faith, every gesture of discipline is building something greater than you can imagine. And one day, as you look back, you'll realize that Psalm 27 really was the key to success, because it taught you to win first on the inside and then win on the outside. In the end, life will always reward those who believe and persevere. Those who give up are left with only repentance, but those who persist reap not only external victories, but the inner peace of knowing that they have been faithful to their purpose. That is the real reward, to live with meaning, to live with courage, to live with faith. Psalm 27 is the hymn of this courage. Napoleon Hill is the guide of this discipline. And you are the protagonist of this story. Now, the decision is in your hands. Will you choose fear or faith? Giving up or persistence? The silence of defeat or the silence of construction? The answer you give today will determine the success you reap tomorrow.